Have you ever stopped in the midst of chaos and wondered, what do I say to God now? Your mind full of requests, your heart heavy, the words stuck in your throat. What if I told you that the first word shouldn't be a request, but something much more powerful? Today, you will discover the secret that transforms prayers into supernatural experiences. First of all, say, I praise you, God. This life-transforming prayer begins right here, in this moment of silence before the first word. Stay with me until the end, because I have a special biblical revelation that will completely change the way you pray. Something that great men and women of faith discovered and that few teach today. Take a deep breath, empty your heart, and come with me on this journey. There is a sacred moment that happens before any word is spoken. It's that instant when you stand before God, but you don't know where to begin. Your chest tightens, your thoughts swirl like a whirlwind, and your soul cries out for help without being able to form a complete sentence. Have you ever been there? To that place where the silence is so heavy it feels suffocating, where worries scream louder than faith, and you desperately search for the right words to reach heaven. Most people start off on the wrong foot. They begin with a list of needs, with the desperation of the moment, with the fear of tomorrow. God, give me this. God, take that away. God, solve this, transform me, heal me. And there's nothing wrong with asking. Jesus himself taught us to ask. But what if there's something even deeper? What if the first word that comes out of your mouth has the power to change not only your situation but your heart? What if there is a spiritual key that opens doors even before you knock? The patriarchs knew this. The prophets understood this. And today you are about to discover what transforms an ordinary prayer into a prayer that touches God's heart. Intimacy with God in prayer doesn't begin with requests, but with recognition. Because the question isn't just, what are you going to say? The question is, who are you going to acknowledge before saying anything? A confused mind cannot see clearly. A weary soul only sees problems, but there is a power that reorganizes inner chaos before any miracle happens outside, praising God first. It's not about feeling like it. It's about choosing to acknowledge who He is, even when everything inside you screams otherwise. I praise you, God. These 4 words carry an eternal weight that changes the spiritual atmosphere around you. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man named David, still a teenager, tending sheep in the field. No one saw him as special. He was the youngest, the forgotten one, the one who wasn't even called when the prophet Samuel arrived to anoint the next king of Israel. But David had a secret. While alone, he didn't complain about loneliness. He didn't murmur about being ignored. He picked up his harp and praised, "You are my shepherd, I shall not want," he sang under the stars. "The heavens declare the glory of God," he proclaimed while the sheep grazed. David expressed his faith in praise, even when no one was watching. And what happened? When the giant Goliath terrorized an entire army, it was this young man praising God who had the courage to face him. Why? Because praise had already strengthened his spirit. Because he knew God not just as a distant concept, but as a real presence experienced in every song. David understood something revolutionary. The power of praising God lies not in manipulating circumstances, but in transforming who you are from the inside. When you begin to recognize God's greatness, the magnitude of your problems diminishes in your perspective. So tell me, have you been praying like someone who needs a favor, or like someone who knows the King? There's an invisible burden that many people carry. It doesn't show up in medical exams, it has no clinical diagnosis, but it weighs like concrete on your chest. It's that emotional oppression that wakes you up in the middle of the night, that steals your peace in the middle of the day, that makes you feel suffocated even while breathing. Do you know what's fascinating? The power of praising God begins to dissolve that weight even before you understand how. It's not magic, it's not a formula, it's not spiritual self-help, it's something much deeper. When you praise, you are declaring a truth greater than your feelings. Think about it. When you say, "God, you are good," even in the midst of the storm, You are not denying the storm. You are affirming something that the storm cannot change, the character of God. And that, my friend, changes everything. Praise that transforms lives is like light entering a dark room. You don't need to fight the darkness, drive out the darkness, or negotiate with the darkness. You simply turn on the light, and the darkness has no choice. It must retreat. That is exactly what happens when praise that brings peace to the heart comes from your lips. Fears begin to lose their power. Anxieties find resistance. Obsessive thoughts encounter an obstacle greater than themselves, the presence of God being invoked through your worship. You're not pretending that everything is okay. You're acknowledging that above all that is not okay, there is someone greater. And this shift in focus is the first step in inner transformation. What if the relief you seek comes not from an external answer, but from an internal revelation? Now comes the hard part, the part where faith is truly tested. Because it's one thing to praise when things are going well. It's quite another to praise God in difficult times, when reality screams the opposite of everything you're proclaiming. Prayer of praise and gratitude in the midst of pain is not an emotional response. It is an act of spiritual warfare. It is you saying, I will not let my circumstances define my faith. I will let my faith redefine how I see my circumstances. Look, I know it's not easy. I know there are days when the last thing you want to do is say thank you. Unemployment is knocking at your door. Your relationship is falling apart. Your health is fragile. And someone comes along and tells you to say thank you. It seems insensitive, almost cruel. But here is the liberating truth. Gratitude to God in prayer is not about denying suffering. It is about not giving suffering the last word. It is recognizing that even in the storm, God remains worthy of praise simply because of who He is. And look, since we're here together on this spiritual journey, let me make a quick request. If this message is touching your heart, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This helps me continue bringing content that strengthens your faith and helps other people find these truths as well. Now stay with me, because what comes next is even more profound. When Paul and Silas were in prison, their backs bloodied from the whippings, what did they do? Did they complain? Did they ask for a heavenly advocate? No. Acts 16:25 says that about midnight Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. Pay attention, they sang. They praised, in prison, in pain. And what happened? An earthquake opened the doors, but more importantly, their inner chains had already been broken before the physical chains. So tell me, what is holding you back that praise hasn't yet reached you? There is a sacred moment in the spiritual journey where praise matures. It's no longer about finding the strength to keep fighting. It's about letting go of control and recognizing that you don't need to have all the answers. The prayer of surrender to God happens when you finally understand. Praising Him isn't about convincing Him to do things your way. It's about aligning your heart with His way. It's about exchanging your agenda for eternal wisdom. And this, ironically, brings more peace than any victory you could achieve on your own. Do you know that need to control everything? That anxiety to plan every detail, anticipate every problem, have plans B, C, and D. Praise as an act of faith dismantles that fortress of control stone by stone. Because when you praise, you are saying, God, I trust more in your wisdom than in my plans. I believe more in your timing than in my urgency. I rest more in your faithfulness than in my strategies. And look at this beautiful thing. Praising God before asking isn't a technique to get what you want faster. It's a transformative process where you discover that perhaps what you truly need isn't the answer you imagined, but intimacy with the one who has all the answers. Jesus in Gethsemane shows us this in a brutal and honest way. He prayed, Father, if it is possible, take this cup from me. Total transparency, legitimate human desire. But the sentence didn't end there. He continued, Yet not my will, but yours be done. Absolute surrender in the midst of anguish. What if true freedom lies not in having what you want, but in trusting those who know what you need? Something supernatural happens when Christian spiritual worship ceases to be just a moment of the week and becomes a lifestyle. Your thoughts begin to change. Your reactions transform. Decisions that were once impulsive now go through a different filter. It's as if an invisible realignment is taking place. That anger that used to dominate you, it loses intensity. That fear that paralyzed your decisions, it encounters resistance. That pride that destroyed relationships, it begins to be confronted. The worship that brings about transformation is silent, doesn't come with fireworks, and doesn't have a specific moment where you feel a click. It's a quiet, constant, profound work, like water shaping stone, drop by drop. Do you know why? Because when you worship, you're not just talking about God, you're exposing yourself to His presence. And no one stands in the presence of light without being illuminated. No one stays near fire without being warmed. No one remains in clean waters without being washed. The prayer that transforms the inner self happens in that sacred space where you stop trying to fix yourself and allow God's presence to do the work that only He can do. You cease to be the engineer of your own transformation and become the clay in the potter's hands. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Do you know how this renewal happens in practice? Through constant exposure to the truth, to the presence of God, and to genuine worship. So tell me, what version of you is being shaped by your moments of worship? There is a type of fragile faith that depends on constant confirmation. It needs visible signs, immediate answers, tangible evidence. And when these don't come, this faith crumbles like a house of cards in the wind. But there is another kind of faith, the kind that is strengthened precisely in the absence of answers, the kind that grows in silence, the kind that matures in waiting. And do you know where this faith is cultivated? In praise that doesn't negotiate, that doesn't bargain, that doesn't set conditions. The prayer to strengthen faith is not one where you ask for more faith. It's one where you use the little faith you have to praise, even without understanding. Because faith expressed in praise is faith in action, faith that is exercised, faith that develops spiritual muscles. Think of an athlete. He doesn't get strong by reading about bodybuilding. He gets strong by lifting weights, enduring the effort, persevering even when his muscles burn. Faith works the same way. Every time you praise without feeling like it, you are lifting spiritual weights. Powerful Christian prayer is not the most eloquent, the longest, or the most theologically sophisticated. It is the prayer that springs from a heart determined to trust regardless of circumstances. It is the prayer that declares eternal truths while temporal truths try to shout louder. Hebrews 11:1 defines it as, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Do you see the beauty of that? Faith isn't about seeing to believe. It's about believing first, then seeing, and sometimes about believing even without seeing, because trust in God's character is enough. What if your faith didn't need more proof to grow, but only more praise? We've reached the climax of this journey, and here's something that will turn everything you thought about prayer upside down. The prayer that touches God's heart isn't necessarily the one that changes your circumstances. It's the one that changes you. God is not impressed by your eloquence. He is not moved by your religious performance. He does not yield to spiritual bargains. But there is something that reaches the Father's heart in a unique way. A child who worships Him simply because He is worthy, not because He needs something. Think about it. Do you have children, nephews, nieces, or know any children? What touches your heart more? When a child only shows up asking for something, or when they come up, hug you and say, "I love you," without wanting anything in return? Intimacy with God in prayer is built exactly like this. It's not a commercial transaction. It's not a contract. It's a relationship. It's you learning to be with Him for the simple pleasure of being with Him. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop praising Him to get things and start praising Him simply because He is God, something mysterious happens. The things you sought so much begin to lose importance compared to the richness of knowing Him. Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." First the kingdom, first who He is, first intimacy, and everything else? It comes as a consequence, not as the main objective. So answer honestly, have you been worshiping God or His blessings? Because that difference makes all the difference. There are days when you simply can't take it anymore. The journey is too long, the burden is too heavy, the exhaustion is too profound, and you wonder, can I take one more step? It is precisely at this point of spiritual exhaustion that prayer for renewed strength makes sense. It's not about making more effort. It's about finding rest in the right place, in the presence of the one who never tires. Isaiah 40:31 promises something revolutionary. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Do you see the pattern? Renewal doesn't come from within you. It comes from waiting on Him, from remaining in His presence. The praise that brings peace to the heart acts as an anchor for the restless soul. When everything is turbulent around you, when circumstances are a storm, worship keeps you fixed on the unshakable rock. And you know what's amazing? This rest doesn't require your problems to be solved first. You can have peace without having answers. You can have hope without having certainties. You can have renewed strength without anything having changed outside, because something has changed inside. When you're exhausted, the last thing that seems to make sense is praising. Your body wants to lie down. Your mind wants to shut down. Your soul just wants to stop. But it's precisely there, at the limit, that the supernatural power of praise manifests itself most clearly. What if the rest you seek isn't in a place, but in a person? And now we arrive at the point where everything connects, where the journey doesn't end, but transforms into a lifestyle. Because starting the day praising God isn't a spiritual productivity technique. It's a decision to position your heart before the world positions it for you. Think about what happens when you wake up. Even before you fully open your eyes, thoughts invade your mind. Worries about work, bills to pay, conflicts to resolve, challenges to face. What if, before all that takes over, you chose a different word? I praise you, God. It's that simple. It doesn't need to be long, eloquent, or profound. It just needs to be genuine, and with that declaration, you're setting the tone for everything that comes after. Because when you begin with praise, you are saying, today is not about me, it's about Him. It's not about what I can do, it's about what He has already done. It's not about my strength, it's about His strength in me. The prayer that transforms lives is the one that becomes a habit, not an event. It's the one that ceases to be an isolated moment and becomes the foundation of how you see everything. And the praise that transforms lives works exactly like that. Not like medicine you take when you're sick, but like a vitamin you consume daily. Psalm 118:24 declares, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Every day, even the difficult ones, even the painful ones, even those where nothing seems to make sense. This is the day the Lord has made. And you can choose to begin it with gratitude. So here's the ultimate challenge. Tomorrow, before picking up your phone, before checking messages, before plunging into the chaos of the day, say just 4 words. I praise you, God, and watch what happens. We've reached the end of this journey, but something tells me that for you, it's only just beginning, because now you know the secret that transforms ordinary prayers into supernatural encounters. Remember back at the beginning when I promised a special revelation? Here it is. The greatest transformation that praise produces isn't in your circumstances. It's in you. God doesn't need your praise to be God, but you need to praise to remember who you are in Him. Before asking, acknowledge. Before complaining, give thanks. Before despairing, worship. Because when you praise God first, everything else falls into place. Now I want you to do something with me. In the comments below, write, "I praise you, God." Leave this testimony, mark this decision, and if this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Subscribe to the channel to continue strengthening your faith with content that truly transforms. And look, I know life isn't easy for anyone. I know you're carrying burdens that no one sees, but there is hope, there is purpose, there is redemption. Because you are not alone on this journey, you have a God who not only hears your prayers, but who acts when you acknowledge him as worthy. Philippians 4:4 invites you today. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Not because everything is perfect, but because he is perfect in the midst of imperfection. First and foremost, always, under any circumstances, say, "I praise you, God." And notice how this simple statement has the power to transform absolutely everything.